Hi, I'm Shannan Johnson, and I am the professional pen. I'm a script consultant that works with writers of all levels through all stages of the writing process. I don't know if you guys remember the book For the Love of Money. It was the sequel to Fly Girl by Omar Tyree. And the main character in For the Love of Money went and got her undergraduate degree in English and journalism. And I actually majored in the same two things. It did not happen on purpose, but maybe subconsciously. And then she decided to quit and become a TV writer, or to go into writing or film in some kind of way. And so that was kind of always in my subconscious. I've always wanted to be a writer. When I was 8, my third grade teacher told me, "You're good at this, you should write." And as a child, you go, okay. So that's what I decided I was going to do. But I never put 2 and 2 together that there were people who wrote for film and television. I always thought you had to write the book, and then the book would be adapted into a screenplay or into the film of some sort. So during my senior year in college, my mother actually sent me this random article about a Black TV writer. And then it kind of clicked, like, oh wait, I can skip this whole book part and I can just write for television. I have always been into reading. I've always been into writing. I was that kid, or maybe this is weird, but I was that kid whose mom had to knock on the door and say, go to sleep, because I was up writing, not like on the phone or anything like that. So I've just always been into telling stories and always into figuring out how I can make characters do something different. So journalism was already a little bit of a stretch for me, because I was like, okay, wait, I have to stick to the facts. What's that about? So realizing that I could fictionalize things and watch stories grow has always made me really into film. Once I got that article about TV writing, I was like, okay, great. I already knew I wanted to go to grad school because my family is a family of overachievers. But I didn't know what I was going to get my degree in. So once I saw that article, I was like, great, I'm going to get my MFA in film. So I quit my job. My first job was an academic advisor and recruiter at Texas A&M University. And I quit, put everything in my car, and went to Los Angeles. I slept on floors. I slept almost in my car one night. But I did that so that I could get any kind of experience possible. So I was a production assistant. I was a second AD. I was a casting intern. I was an intern at Dr. Phil. I was an intern at ABC. I was an intern at Cube Vision and Development. I was jumping around doing everything I could, and I'm sure I had to lie on these papers about being a student, because I totally wasn't a student anymore. But during that time, I just wanted to figure out something about the industry, because I knew nothing whatsoever, being from Houston, Texas. So then I went to film school at Florida State University in Tallahassee, and I was able to get my degree and get an MFA in film. Now, what's great about that program is that it's a dual program. So it's a program between the film school, the theater department, and the creative writing department. So I got to do film and television, I got to do stage plays, and I got to do creative writing. So it was like a writer's dream, right? But while I was there, shade, one of my professors says to me, how is it that you can help all the other writers like figure out their problems and you can't do it for yourself? It's like, right? However, I appreciated it because it turned my focus to what I really enjoyed the most, which was helping other writers write. Like, I always enjoyed the writing process when we would have to come into class and share our work and give notes to each other. That always excited me, almost as much as writing did. So it was that moment that I decided to look into development, which I really didn't know what it was, but I was trying to figure it out. And so I applied to the NBC Entertainment Associates program, which is a junior executive program that's like a fast track to get you through the executive ranks. And being there at the Sci-Fi Channel, I was able to really figure out what this world was about. And then I realized in film school, they're not teaching you the business part. Like, they are teaching you how to write, how to direct, how to edit, even how to produce. And at Florida State, we even did all of the below the line positions too. So I've been a best boy, I've been an AC, I've done all of that stuff. But when I got into that office, it was a brand new world. So just learning about selling, learning about ratings, learning about what it is the network is looking for when you come in, because since I had been the writer it was cool to now be on the other side of the table and figure out like, okay, just because you have ideas doesn't matter. Nobody cares that you have ideas. It's about how you can sell it and if that's what they're looking for at that moment. So I did that for a few years, and then I crazily quit that job for the stage. So I grew up in performing arts and never really thought it would be something that I was going to do. And I quit and joined a dance company for 2 years. And then I went and did musical theater for another 6 years. So I've done a couple of national tours for Broadway, and it's been cool and fun. But the whole time while I was doing that, I was still helping writers with their work, just kind of on the side. It wasn't something I was telling people I was doing, but everybody knew that I had a background in that. So they would contact me here and there and say, hey, can you help me with this or help me with that? So it's kind of like my side hustle. I'll get $1 here, $1 there. And just this past summer, actually, I decided to flip it and make the professional pen my full-time job. And if something for acting comes about and it drops into my lap, I will do it, but I'm putting all of my energy into working with writers. And ever since I decided to focus, it's been awesome. Like, clients have been coming out of the woodwork, opportunities have been coming out of the woodwork. So I know that this is where I'm great. It's one thing to know that you're good at something. It's another thing to realize you're great at something. And so now that I know that, I am focusing solely on that, and the benefits are coming. Intro writers need the most help with structure. I think that a lot of new writers are so stuck in their head about their ideas, so stuck in their head about wanting to sell that. And being a working writer in Hollywood is about being able to plug and chug and get it done. And I know that crushes us, right? Because we want it to be about creativity. But Hollywood lives in a box. They just do. And they don't want to take the risk on someone new. Mostly because of how much money goes into the business. Not necessarily how much money they're making, but how much money they are spending on making ideas happen. So you have to be able to work within that box. So understanding structure, and this is Hollywood. If you're going to do independent, that might be a totally different thing. But if you're going to be in Hollywood, you got to understand structure. If you're going to be on a TV writing staff, sure, you might have the opportunity to sit around and throw out ideas depending upon which level you are on that writing staff. You might be way at the bottom and not get to say a word. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to then be given a script and say, go write this. But it's not your idea. It wasn't something you were passionate about, but you need to be able to understand the structure of how scripts are written. You need to be able to understand the structure of how that particular show is written. And you got to go home and you got to chug that thing out within the week. So I think if you can understand the structure of the kind of writing you want to do, because it's not all the same. TV looks different from film. And within TV, comedy looks different from drama. Multi-camera comedy looks different from single camera comedy. Comedy might look different from a procedural. So you have to understand what it is you're writing. And then even within those different subgenres, that particular show might write and structure and format in a totally different way from how another show does it. So it's up to you to do your homework on the kind of writer that you want to be. And I know it's 2019 and we're all multi-talented and we all want to do everything. But going back to what I said earlier, you got to figure out what you're great at first. And it's hard to become great at one thing if you're dividing your energy into 5 things. So sure, I want to write comedy and drama. Awesome, great. But when you walk into a room, they're going to ask you what kind of writer you are, because they're going to have to be able to pitch you while you're not in the room with them. So they want to be able to look at your writing samples and say, this person is a comedy writer. Now, that doesn't mean that once you become a big time comedy writer, you can't decide, I want to write some drama. But by then you have a name and it's not as big of a risk and you have the opportunity to write drama. But when you're starting off, figure out what kind of writer you are. What kind of writing do you do great? Because if you're trying to be in Hollywood, it's going to be work for hire, whether it's work for hire because you're on someone's TV staff, or it's work for hire because somebody read one of your scripts and now they're trying to do a feature and they're like, oh, I'm going to call up this person because they wrote a great comedy script. So now you're going to come and you're going to be writing on somebody else's project. So that happens all the time. So knowing what kind of writer you want to be is first. And then studying the works of those kind of writers or those kind of shows or those kind of features so that you can understand structure. So then when you do have that opportunity to be work for hire, you're able to just push it right on out. If you're a newbie writer, 9 times out of 10, even if you sell that thing, it might not ever get made. The industry just works that way. Something can be in development for 2 years and then fall off the planet. And then this was your baby that you put so much work into and you really wanted to see it happen. If you actually want to see something happen, write it out, as the ideas are coming to you so you don't lose them, but then put it to the side so that when you become the big time writer, you can pull out your baby and actually get your baby made. So that's like the first thing. The other thing is you got to figure out what you enjoy writing. Because again, if you're going to be in this work for hire position, that means once you get your agent or your manager, they're going to keep sending you in for these particular kind of jobs. So you don't want to lie to yourself just because you have this cool procedural idea and then you're mad because you're writing on Law and Order SVU. You're like, I don't want to write this, but that's what you wrote. That's what your sample is. What do you mean you don't want to write that? Why do you have a procedural cop sample if you don't want to write procedural cop stuff? So you have to ask yourself, if I'm trying to be a working writer, what do I enjoy enough writing, whether it's my idea or not? The best way to get an agent is to be writing. And I know that sounds weird, but once you do find that person, they're going to ask what else you have. So no one cares about you having this one perfect script. So if you've been working on one perfect script for 5 years, and you're like, yes, I finally got it there. This is the one. And they're going to say, great, but can you do it again? So you have to have proof that you're good at this, which goes back to picking your lane, figuring out what kind of writer you are so that you can have a portfolio, just like if you were a photographer, right? You have to have a portfolio of your writing. So you're not ready if you don't have a portfolio. One script is not enough unless somebody has already contacted you, somebody big enough to say they want to make it. Because an agent's job is to make money off of you. So if you've got something that somebody has contacted you and say, hey, we want to produce this, or hey, we want you to come write on something, blah, 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 you can contact agents that maybe you have had your eye on to say, so somebody's trying to make a deal with me, would you like to represent me? And they may be more willing to say, yep, because now they see that somebody else already wants you. The thing about screenwriting competitions is if winning the competition or becoming a finalist or even a semi-finalist in that competition is going to get your name or your work in front of agents, then those are the competitions to do. No one cares about the laurel that you're going to get when you win. Like right now, one of my biggest pet peeves is you can look through Instagram and everybody has award-winning writer in their bio. And you're lying. Because nobody cares about the film festival you won down the street. If it wasn't Sundance, you know what I mean? If it wasn't the Austin Film Festival, if it wasn't Nichols, some big program like that, you don't have an Oscar or an Emmy, nobody is caring about your award-winning writer title, especially if you didn't meet anybody who's gonna take your work to the next level. So you wanna know in these competitions, am I gonna meet a manager or an agent or an executive or a producer or somebody who's gonna get me in the room? Can this script competition or this film festival get me in the room? If the answer is yes, it's the place to go. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the script that's going to get made, but it might be the script that gets you to the person who's going to help you to get something else made. So you have to realize that not every script is made to go on television. Not every script is made to go on the screen. That script might just be the thing that gets you in the room. That script just might be the thing that somebody else was interested in to come have you write something else. So I think going through the film festival circuit is a good idea if you're choosing the right film festivals, because that could be the best way to get you in front of an agent. Until then, just keep writing. There are, I don't want to say the wrong name of this thing. Dang, I can't remember the name of it. But there are lists out there that sometimes if you're writing and you pass it on to somebody else to read, they may pass it on to somebody else to read and somebody else reads it. And there are lists out there that kind of list the top scripts from that year. These aren't necessarily scripts that were produced or anything, but just being on that list may all of a sudden have agents and managers and producers and executives kind of looking at you. So if you're writing and if you're sharing with your peers, kind of like Issa Rae said, you want to network sideways, right? If you're sharing with your peers and writing, it's going to get in front of the right people. But if you don't have that portfolio, then it's not going to matter, because they're not going to be able to just sell you on that one thing unless somebody else already wanted it and they're trying to come in and get their percentage. Is having celebrity showrunners a good thing? Question. I think it could go both ways. I think that the crazy part about Hollywood is that it works on trends. We were talking about a little bit earlier, like how do you know what a network wants? Well, you don't. It's changing. All you can do is hopefully get a manager or an agent or somebody who can get you in the room so that you can know what they're looking for right now, because just because they were looking for that last year doesn't mean they're looking for it now. So with this whole celebrity showrunner thing, it could also be a trend. But what I love about at least what people like Shonda Rhimes and Issa Rae, and I think Ben Corey Jones is on his way to being this same kind of showrunner eventually, is that they are pulling up people along with them. They aren't just kind of taking this spotlight and then rehiring the same people over and over and over. They are making avenues so that new writers can come in, even if that means making a nonprofit on the side, like Ava has Array, or even if it means, you know, starting a small writers program on the side. Ben Corey Jones and Lena Waithe have a writers program that they started before. So I think it's great that they're making other avenues for people to get there. I also think it's great that we have this celebrity showrunner thing, because writers are usually the people who are not in the forefront. Like, it's the name that's on the screen, but nobody ever pays attention to it because they're always paying attention to the actors. So it's a good thing that now writers are getting a little bit more shine, but a bad thing because now everybody thinks they can write. Now everybody's like, oh, I can do that. Now everybody sees the celebrity that can come along with it, and they want to kind of jump on that, you know, hop on that bandwagon. And I think that it'll be easy to see who's doing that and who's actually caring about the craft. But we'll see how the trend goes. I mean, we just never know. So this is how I feel about writers who are afraid to get out there. I really think that we use being introverted, or we use being a recluse, or use being a people person as an excuse. At the end of the day, you're afraid to share your work because it's your baby. And you just have to look at it like this. Let's say it's a real baby. At some point, the baby has to go out into the world. And even parents are thinking, oh my gosh, but are they prepared? Well, did you do your job? I know that sounds crazy if you're saying that to a parent, but from a writer, have you done your job with your script? Because if the script doesn't get out into the world, then what are you doing? Why are you spending all of those hours in front of your computer if you're never going to show your baby to the world? You got to give it the opportunity to go and fly. So that means that you have to leave your computer screen, because regardless of how cliche it is, it's about who you know. It's not about how you write. We go to films all the time and go, that was trash. How did they make that happen? Right? Well, it's probably because they knew someone. So the same thing can be happening for you. Hopefully your stuff isn't trash, but the same thing can be happening for you. But you got to get out there and you have to make those connections. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. You can tell yourself, I'm going to go into this room and I'm going to make an organic connection with one person. And then you never know where that organic connection is going to take you. And then the next time you go to the event, you say you're going to do the same thing. And maybe when you get there, that other organic connection is there. Now you know someone. Right? So now you're keeping that relationship going, and you decide, I'm going to meet one more person. And when you meet them, have a conversation that matters. Let them get to know you, because the other thing about Hollywood is people want to work with people they want to work with. So if you can't even hold a conversation with them, then they might not want to do all the rest of it to even know what you may have to offer. So just go be a person. Just be a person. And if they get to know you, then you have the opportunity to say, oh yeah, and I'm a writer. And then maybe because they like you, they'll say, all right, well, what are you writing? Or maybe we can look at some of your stuff. But at the end of the day, just set realistic goals for yourself. And know that it's okay that you don't have to go in the room and be the life of the party and meet everybody there. Just make one connection, one organic connection, and see where that takes you.